Well, hello YouTube, it's me Fortmaster, and welcome to a new reaction by Fuhnaff, Fuhnaff, and the clues that solve FNAF security breach. Yeah, so as I was watching at the time of recording the most recent game theory about, Matt Pat going over how FNAF has, affected not only YouTube, but like the gaming industry and all that sort of stuff. That reminded me in the fact that, there are other like FNAF theory channels that I like to watch, but haven't done reactions to their stuff. I already did one for Rye Toast because he's also relatively newer, but a pretty big person in like FNAF theorizing right now. And the other one we have is FNAF, or John FNAF, where he often comes up with theories that, well, if I remember correctly, he was the first person to suggest the whole weird nightmare marionette or nightmarian kind of like connection to FNAF security breach, and how like you have the nightmare plushies just sort of hidden everywhere, and those weird light wires thing that match the stripes on its arms. He's very much known for theories that seem really weird out of the gate, but the more you listen to them, the more sense they make. Or at least that's like how I think of him. And I've never done a reaction to his stuff, but I like his theories. So this came out less than a day ago, and I very much want to see what this clue is that he's going to be talking about here. So, of course, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And if you have anything that you want to suggest for me to react to, of course, you can just, talk about it in the description, or you can go on my Discord server where I have a dedicated, text channel where you can link those videos for me to watch. And just saying, I'd very much prefer if people, linked stuff there. That way I don't have to use the Word document I've been using since pretty much I started doing reactions to keep track of stuff I want to do reactions to. But of course, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing actually started then, shall we?
In July of 2023, we were officially introduced to the next big bad of the franchise.
The Mimic, yeah.
This is great, but I keep going back to the same question. Was this always the plan? When Scott and Steelwell were making Security Breach, was the Mimic always going to be the big reveal? Well, after diving back into Security Breach, I think that answer is yes. This theory has been months in the making, and I can't wait to share it with you. Let's get started. During my research, I found that the tales from the Pizzaplex books were really trying to point us in the right direction. Basically, some of the events that take place in the books also happen in the games, but they aren't completely the same. And the first of these events revolves around how the Mimic got to the Pizzaplex.
I mean, that's always been sort of the deal when it's been like the books. Even though with our view on how the books relate to Security Breach being a little fuzzy, the deal has always been that the books, like the movie, are in their own canon, but we can use pieces from them to kind of fill in the blanks or to help us realize what's going on in the main game timeline. I'd be very confused if they made it so that the books relating to Security Breach and only to Security Breach were all of a sudden made 100% canon in everything.
In the books, they make it very clear that the Mimic wasn't always at the Pizzaplex, it was shipped to the Pizzaplex. In the books, before the Pizzaplex was done being built, there was a construction crew working on the FNAF 6 pizzeria under the Pizzaplex. Suddenly, a big shipment arrived out of nowhere, and this shipment included a bunch of, quote, state-of-the-art animatronics and the Mimic. The Mimic stuck out from the rest of the animatronics because it was old and burnt. Meanwhile, the other animatronics in the shipment looked brand new. The construction workers were told that the delivery was happening, but were confused about what the delivery contained, saying, quote, state-of-the-art animatronics? It was weird to be receiving these now when the building was little more than an open framework.
Yeah, that would definitely be weird.
To the Pizzaplex in the books, but what about the games? Well, throughout Security Breach, there's these white sticky notes scattered everywhere. Everywhere you turn in this mall, you can find more of these white sticky notes, which tells me that Steelwool really wanted us to see them. And if you look at enough of the sticky notes, they actually start to tell a story. And I can actually put this into a timeline, a FNAF security breach white sticky note timeline.
First, no. Why do we have so many timelines?
Import pending 6 a.m., indicating that a shipment was scheduled to arrive at the Pizzaplex at 6 a.m. We then see a label confirming that the shipment arrived at the Pizzaplex, along with a package number and the word return next to some question marks. The question marks tell us that they don't know where this package came from. Then things get worse. We get a sticky note saying unknown and a bunch of scribbles, followed by a bunch of package labels with question marks on them. If you haven't picked up on it already, this is almost the exact same scenario from the books. A shipment arrives at the Pizzaplex and the workers are confused about what it is. But it doesn't stop there. In the games, we actually learn who sent that shipment and what was in it. In FNAF AR, we learn about the Fazbear Funtime Delivery Service. This is a real delivery service in-universe where you can have an animatronic shipped to your house for special events. In order to do this, Fazbear Entertainment actually rebuilt all of the old animatronics from the past. And the company responsible for shipping these animatronics to people's houses was DLZ Shipping Solutions. We see Jimmy from the shipping company talking to Fazbear Entertainment in the FNAF AR emails. Fazbear is asking Jimmy for help concerning a virus in their system, but he never responds. Later on in the emails, someone finally does respond, and it's Vanessa. Vanessa created a fake email address and proceeded to take over for Jimmy and gain access to DLZ Shipping Solutions. Lewis from Fazbear Entertainment calls her out for this. Quote, I didn't want to put this in writing, but over the weekend, did you happen to create an IT department email address for yourself and use company credentials to reach out to a subcontractor and access their system? With Vanessa now in control of the shipping company, she sends a shipment to the Pizzaplex. This shipment is the one we see on the white sticky notes. I know this because grouped with all of the shipping sticky notes is one that says remember Jimmy, referring to Jimmy from DLZ Shipping Solutions. So we know Vanessa sent this unknown shipment to the Pizzaplex, but what was in it? Well, I believe it was all of the FNAF AR animatronics and the Mimic. Just like how in the books, it was a bunch of state-of-the-art animatronics and the Mimic. Need more proof? In Rockstar Row you can find a bunch of things on display, including this empty stage from FNAF VR. Instead of just closing the curtain, they left it open to show that the stage is empty. This tells me that Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica were once on that stage. We know it couldn't have been the OG Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica because they've been scrapped,
for a long time.
We see Foxy's rusted torso in a display case. It had to have been the rebuilt versions of the animatronics for the Funtime Delivery Service. I think this because if you look in front of the stage, you can see the shipping label with the question marks on it. The FNAF AR animatronics that were shipped to the Pizzaplex were once on that stage, and now I believe reside in the Blob. This is
okay. I mean, I guess that would make sense because, like in Security Breach, they are talking about how like a lot of the displays in Rockstar Row have seemingly been stolen. So I mean, it would make sense that at one point, like next to the stars of the show, so to speak, you show like, oh, a history of Fazbear, and you show like their older versions and stuff like that. And also that would explain where the Blob has seemingly gotten all of the material to make itself. Now, granted, I would very much hope that these new animatronics weren't, possessed in any way, but given that what we see in FNAF AR and what was theorized by MatPat with FNAF in regards to FNAF VR is that these animatronics were designed to harvest like remnants and agony and stuff like that, so there might be some of it just lingering in their systems, which is what either formed the Blob or allowed the Blob to kind of like coalesce and like take them in, so to speak. I mean, at least that's what I'm thinking.
Why we see a bunch of animatronics in the Blob that should no longer exist. These are the rebuilt versions of them for the Funtime Delivery Service.
That would also explain why most of them don't have lit up eyes. Because again, they're not possessed.
So we know that this shipment to the Pizzaplex included all of the FNAF AR animatronics, but what about the Mimic? Is there any proof that the Mimic was also shipped to the Pizzaplex? The following discoveries are the reason I decided to make this video, so hold on to your seats.
Oh, so now we get into the good stuff.
Shipment to the Pizzaplex is a big deal in the books and the games, but they're not 100% the same. The same things happen, but some details are swapped out. Like for example, in the books, the shipment arrived to a construction crew before the Pizzaplex Pizzaplex was done being built. But in the games, this shipment arrived after the Pizzaplex was done being built. So the question now is, does what happens next in the books also happen in the games? In the books, after the shipment arrives, one of the construction workers takes the mimic and basically tricks it into doing his busy work. The workers were told to tear off the limbs and heads of a bunch of endoskeletons and pile them up. So the construction worker proceeded to plug his laptop into the mimic and program it to do the job for them. The mimic then began tearing off the limbs and heads of the endoskeletons, but once it ran out of endoskeletons, it started doing it to the people, right? Workers. Now, let me point you towards the games. In Security Breach, you can find a duffel bag message titled Job Security. The message reads as follows: "Where is everyone? Leo was the only one who had a copy of the maze control key, but I haven't seen him for months. Maybe that creepy bot knows where the key is. Leo was supposed to train it to work the maze. Instead, he tricked the bot into doing busy work under the daycare theater. I'll check after the all-staff meeting tonight." So we have
Oh no. Of course, in the game, we thought it was like a staff bot or something originally, but if it was actually the mimic, oh god, oh no.
Employee that tricked a creepy bot into doing his busy work, and now he hasn't been seen for months. This is exactly what happens in the books, just with some details swapped out. This creepy bot is something I can't believe I haven't noticed before. I can't think
because again, we thought he was referring to a staff bot.
Mimic. Creepy bot is singular. They're talking about one specific animatronic, which means it can't be one of the many Glamrock endoskeletons. The only other character I could see this applying to is the daycare attendant. But even then, the daycare attendant has a name. Why use creepy bot? Also, we get a duffel bag message about a kid having nightmares after visiting the daycare, which implies that the daycare attendant is already working the daycare and wouldn't be available to do anything else. So not only was the mimic included in the shipment to the Pizzaplex, the staff were aware of its existence and it was openly being used throughout the building. Need more proof? In the books, we learn one important piece of information. The Glamrock endoskeletons are version 2 of the mimic endoskeleton. Basically, Fazbear Entertainment took the design and functionality of the mimic and used it for the Glamrock endos. This is backed up in the games. In Security Breach, you can find blueprints for the Glamrock endos, and on those blueprints, it says that the Glamrock endos are the new generation of endos, implying that there was a previous version, which was the mimic. And there's one thing that the mimic and the Glamrock
I've never seen those blueprints before.
They're both drawn to sound. In Ruin, Helpy drops a piece of information about the Glamrocks that we've never heard before. He says experienced employees use intercom recordings to direct animatronic performers to specific locations, you know, for autographs and photo ops. A key game mechanic in Ruin is using sound to lure the Glamrocks away from us. This feature directly came from the mimic. In the books, it's established that the main way to lure the mimic away is by using sound. And among the sticky notes about the unknown shipment to the Pizzaplex, there's one that says, "It is drawn to sound." Just like the creepy bot description from earlier, it is singular, which means whoever wrote this was talking about one specific animatronic, and I believe that to be the mimic. So we know that the mimic was shipped to the Pizzaplex, and we know that the staff knew about it. But what happens after that? Well, let me point you towards the Endo daycare in Security Breach. This area has been overlooked for so long because we didn't really know what to make of it until Help Wanted 2 came out. In the Endo daycare minigame in Help Wanted 2, it's our job to teach an Endo how to behave. We learned that the Endos are essentially toddlers that need to be taught what's right and wrong. This is why this area resembles a daycare.
Here, young animatronic endoskeletons learn how to associate with guests. Motivation chips encourage our youth to one day develop a personality and become the next Freddy, Chica, or TBD Pizzaplex star.
There's even this Easter egg in...
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I've always thought what the daycare was. It was essentially like the base, I guess you could call it AI for the endoskeletons, like for the Glamrock and animatronics, are very much like driven by what I would imagine are iterative AIs. So, I mean, it would basically just be, hey, have them go through what is essentially an obstacle course, and like reward them and if they did something right, and like punish them if they did something wrong. Now, and when I say like reward and punish, I'm very much talking about like going into the programming and saying, hey, you did a good thing, or hey, you did a bad thing. But if you do that enough times, like through enough iterations, as in like having the endoskeleton going through the obstacle course enough times, you'd hopefully get to the point where it automatically knows what to do in these situations, and then you can say, like, plug in the proper personality for, like, hey, Roxy or Chica, or, you know, in one case of the endings, Mr. Hippo. It's like those videos where they have like, oh, I'm going to have an AI try to beat Super Mario Brothers or something like that, and they go through like hundreds and hundreds of iterations before it gets halfway through level 1-1. But except instead of doing this like in purely like software form, they're doing it like with it in like a chassis in real life, which you'd think they'd be able to do it a lot quicker if they did it in software form before they did it in like hardware form. Then again, this is Fazbear Entertainment. The only thing efficient about them is their legal team.
Security breach when you bring Glamrock Freddy into the Endo daycare.
I have never been allowed in here before. This must be where I was born.
He says this in the exact same room the Help Wanted 2 minigame takes place in. This is where the Endos are given their personalities and taught how to behave. When we teach the correct behavior, it displays a check mark. This is actually laid out on the doors in this
exactly,
area in
right there.
Breach. You see right and wrong behaviors matched with check marks and X's. But
like you'd think, like I could almost think that like the main thing would be just like if you got one that was wrong enough times, you'd basically do a clean wipe and then send the machine through again, just to like try to get different results.
But you'll notice that Vanny's famous purple spray paint is all over the doors, which begs the question, what was Vanny doing here? Well, to figure this out, we have to look at the door in the room where we train the Endos. On the door, we see glitch traps spray painted next to an Endo with bunny ears on its head. With Help Wanted 2 telling us that this room is where Endos are given personalities and taught how to behave, I think this door is indicating that the goal was to transfer glitch trap into the physical world through the Mimic. This door can also be found in Help Wanted 2, which tells me once again that Steelwool really wanted us to see this. After the Mimic takes a trip through the Endo daycare, what happens next? Well, this is where the sticky note room comes into play.
Oh god, yeah, the sticky note room on
that the
this
Mimic
thing.
was known for drawing on multicolored sheets of paper, clearly connecting this room to the Mimic. The book even says that the Mimic would sometimes color in the entire page, and in this room we see pages completely colored in.
So I guess that would mean, thankfully, another point for the Gregory's Not a Robot camp.
There's also a workstation right above this room filled with a bunch of white sticky notes, including the It Is Drawn to Sound and the Mystery Shipment notes.
Yeah.
Also, on the table at this workstation are the blueprints for the Glamrock endoskeletons, where we learn that these are the new generation of Endos. All of this stuff clearly connects this room to the Mimic. So we know that the Mimic drew these pictures, but the biggest mystery is what these pictures mean. When you look at the drawings, most of them have to do with a birthday party, with a note saying birthday time, party time, a drawing of cake, pizza, balloons, kids, presents, and basically everything having to do with a birthday party. I've spent the last 2 years looking at these sticky notes trying to figure out what this birthday party means. The Mimic in the books never attends any sort of birthday party, so why would the Mimic in the games want to draw about birthday parties? Well, I think the answer might have been right in front of us the whole time. I've spent an embarrassing amount of time looking at these 3 images, the texture files for the sticky notes, trying to figure out what they all mean. But the one thing that I've been missing is the context of the drawings. For a year and a half now, I've been saying that Security Breach is about environmental storytelling. So looking at where the sticky notes are placed in this room is almost as important as what's drawn on them. And in the sticky note room, there's some key drawings that Steelwool obviously wanted us to see. There's the drawings clearly sitting on top of the cardboard box in front of a candle. There's This Is My Home Leave clearly on display as well. But even then, these things are not organized whatsoever. They're scattered all over the place, except for one spot. In the back of the room behind this wooden post, you can find 6 sticky notes that are unlike the rest. In a room full of drawings scattered everywhere, these are perfectly lined up in a grid and being lit by a candle. Looking closer at them, I noticed that these were the sticky notes with the arrows on them. The drawings with the arrows always confused me, until I looked at the rest of the drawings in this grid. We see pictures of kids, fun and games, and then stop go. With the context of the kids, the arrows, and stop go, it looks to me like these are directions. As if someone was directing the mimic throughout the Pizzaplex, passing a bunch of kids, birthday parties, pizza, fun and games, and balloons. If the mimic really was present throughout the Pizzaplex, like we see in the duffel bag message earlier about the creepy bot and the "it is drawn to sound" note, then it would make sense that it would draw about birthday parties.
Because it was around them so much.
Where birthday parties are being held. All it's seeing in this place is birthday parties. And I think the person guiding the mimic throughout the Pizzaplex and keeping it in this room was Vanessa. If you look at enough of the sticky notes, you can see evidence of two entities talking.
Also, wait a second, I don't know if he's going to talk about this, but like literally, like look at all of the staff bot heads in here. Again, Mimic was programmed to remove heads
to each other. This is something that ID's fantasy threw out there a while ago, and I completely agree. There's notes that say you and me, hello and goodbye, befriend, hide, no hide, get snack, pizza time, and obviously stop go. You even see evidence that they followed through on these notes as well. In the sewer system, you can find a little hideout featuring the drawings, a pizza, and a bunch of cups. I think this was Vanessa and the Mimic communicating with each other. I think it's pretty clearly laid out that Vanessa was highly involved with Glitchtrap and the Mimic.
Very much so, yeah, obviously.
When I first found you, you were nothing.
There is more going on here than you realize.
Oh god, yeah.
Vanessa in Help Wanted.
Don't worry. I'll be ready. And I won't let you down.
Or the spray paint in the Endo daycare from earlier. She was clearly heavily involved with the Mimic. And I think that's also shown to us through this drawing in the sticky note room. This drawing of someone holding a flashlight is a lot different than the other drawings of kids wearing birthday hats. That's because I think this could be a drawing of Vanessa holding her flashlight and wearing her security hat, further solidifying her being present down there. But even then, the drawing didn't fully convince me. That could be any security guard. The thing that really convinced me was this. When you're going through the sewer section of the game, you pass by the little hideout and a bunch of drawings, eventually leading you to the sticky note room. But right before you get there, one character comes out of nowhere and starts chasing you all the way to the sticky note room. Vanny. Help Wanted 2 explains to us that when an Endo is being trained in the Endo daycare, it starts off as a blank robot.
Think of the staff bot in front of you as a blank canvas.
Then essentially grows up as you teach it more and more.
Congratulations, you are now teaching at a 4th grade level. Good job. You are now teaching at a junior high level.
This is exactly what we see with the different phases of the drawings. What once started as a robot talking in binary slowly started growing up and becoming more intelligent, with the drawings and handwriting becoming better and better. Vanny was training the Mimic to be a robotic recreation of William Afton. This is why we see a robotic recreation of the Afton family. Vanessa was showing the Mimic that this was its family and that this was its home. But as the Mimic started growing up, it started becoming more aware. It started wanting things for itself and getting possessive over what it had, eventually leading it to kick out anyone who stepped foot in its home. I believe that Fuhnaff is the result of Glitchtrap's plan working, entering the physical world through the Mimic. But there's two people who stop that from happening: Gregory and Cassie's dad. In here, we learned that the burn trap ending is not the canon ending to Security Breach. The canon ending is the Princess Quest ending, where Gregory destroys Glitchtrap and frees Vanessa. We also learned that after Gregory freed Vanessa, they likely caught the Mimic and trapped it in the basement, like we hear in the Candy Cadet's story.
There was a monster in the woods, but the mother caught it and kept it locked in the basement.
But as we learn in Help Wanted 2, Gregory didn't destroy all of Glitchtrap. A piece of him still remained, and Cassie's dad was the one who destroyed that piece in Princess Quest 4. This is why when we finally meet the Mimic in Ruin, there's no trace of Glitchtrap or William Afton left. Gregory and Cassie's dad destroyed it all, leaving the plain old Mimic left to be found by Cassie in the basement. We learn in Security Breach that Vanessa was sent to the Pizzaplex for a reason.
I'm needed somewhere else now. Thank you.
And I believe that reason was to help Glitchtrap enter the physical world through the Mimic. After shipping the Mimic to the Pizzaplex, Vanessa uses the Endo daycare to turn the Mimic into this robotic recreation of William Afton. She keeps the Mimic in the sticky note room, telling it that this was its family and that this was its home. But after Gregory frees Vanessa and destroys most of Glitchtrap, they lock the Mimic in the basement, where it eventually will trick Cassie into setting it free. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, and thanks for watching.
Okay. So, I mean, like, this does definitely answer a lot of the questions people have been having, but basically just like talking about the whole, how does Glitch Chap fit in with the Mimic? Is the Glitch Chap actually Mimic, or all that sort of stuff? But this definitely does make a lot of sense. Oh god, you know what I just thought of? So the last couple of big theories, specifically the ones involving like Nightmare, the Nightmare Marionette and Nightmare Puppet, Matt Pat did reactions to them on GT Live. Oh, I would have loved to have seen him do a reaction to this. Oh, now I'm sad. Oh, God. But yeah, I mean, that could very much answer the whole Mimic problem. I mean, we have to see where it goes after this, but this could literally answer, like, everything we've been wondering about it. Because, like, that's one of the things, like, John specifically has been one of the few people actually looking at, like, security breach and, like, looking at the world itself. A lot of other people, they're treating security breach like they did, like, with the older games. Like, granted, I still think that that's, very important thing to do, but Security Breach, is a much bigger game than all the other FNAF games, and it has the potential to have a lot more storytelling everywhere. And so far, he was the first that I really saw, starting to look at it that way and getting more missing, like, being able to fill in more of the blanks with that sort of stuff. Yeah, definitely. I hope this turns out to be true, because that would be awesome if it was. So, yeah. Of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen that for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And, of course, if you have any suggestions for stuff for me to react to, you can either leave them in the comment section, or I would prefer if you went onto my Discord server and used the actual suggestion channel, just so it's more, organized for me and that sort of stuff. But yeah, with all that out of the way, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.